Welcome to the Deploy Securely podcast, where we go deep on the security, compliance, and privacy implications of using AI. I'm your host, Walter Haydock, founder and CEO of Stackware. Today, I'm joined by my friend Kenny Scott.
What's up?
On cue, I'm getting the double audio. My bad. Let me give you a clean intro there. So Kenny is the founder and CEO of Paramify, a platform that simplifies compliance reporting for cloud service providers. With 17 years in information security and IT auditing, he's helped organizations of all sizes implement standards like FedRAMP, SOC 2, ISO 27001, Sarbanes-Oxley, and GDPR. His other interests include business strategy, investing, design and programming. Outside work, he's married to Angie Scott, a father of 5, ages 17 to 7, enjoys music, guitar, snowboarding, and surfing. Frankly, I don't understand how you do all those things. Quite impressive. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, my friend. Yeah, I don't do all of them anymore. I'm pretty boring. I'm 42, startup. You sacrifice a lot, right? So I'd love to.
Like he's 25.
Thanks, man. It's so good to be here, dude. Thanks.
Awesome, dude. Well, can you just talk a little bit more about Paramify and its mission? Would love, feel free to give the full pitch for our audience here.
Sure. Yeah. So my mission I can't say it's mine anymore. We're 30 people now. Our mission, right, at Paramify, we want to make great risk management accessible to anyone, kind of like anyone, like Ratatouille, anyone can cook, right? So anyone, right? Not everyone should, right? But anyways, cyber risk management, where we're focused right now is that's where we are as cyber. It can be incredibly challenging for companies, right? The core aspects we think involve planning, implementation, and assessment, and then reporting. And in this space, it's really big. There's not a one-stop solution that handles all of it, and we're not trying to do that. But what we're trying to do is help professionals build a solid plan using their existing stack. So that's their people, their places, like where they're deployed, the things that they're using. And then we want to automate, required deliverables for managers, assessors, customers, whoever needs the work, right? So where there's gaps, we're really good at connecting our clients with really good partners and great tools and excellent deliverables in a very short period of time. So I guess to use an analogy, it's kind of like a math equation that starts wrong is always going to be wrong. And our ambition is to be the risk management software that ensures that we're good at each step, even for the most complex problems. So, and everything from setup to execution to then showing the work to the math teacher, I guess, to finish the analogy, right?
Awesome. So can't start by trying to divide by 0, right? Is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't compute, right?
It's not gonna happen. Cool, man. Well, appreciate that. Yeah. And then specifically, if would love to drill down a little bit. You are focused on companies that are looking to go through the FedRAMP process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, FedRAMP is where definitely our go-to-market. We think that's going to grow quite a bit, especially with CMMC coming out. A lot of people don't realize that these mom and pop shops that are using softwares that are not FedRAMP equivalent, they're not going to be able to pass CMMC without that. So I saw that as hey, this is actually going to be a big deal eventually. There's still very few companies, that are FedRAMP. We're actually going through the process right now, and there's very few of them, but it's something that I had a lot of experience with and kind of made a bet on that. We don't necessarily think we stay there forever, but for right now, that is where our clients are most excited about what we offer.
Well, yeah. So 2 things I want to talk about there. One is, if I understand correctly, you're going through a FedRAMP High authorization yourself. That's correct?
Yes. Yep,
So
that's right.
you were walking the walk, and obviously I'm going to plug Stackaware a little bit. We just finished our own ISO 42001 certification, so I
Hey,
definitely huge respect to an advisor to a company that is like, let me show you how to do it because I have done it myself. And FedRAMP High, like how many FedRAMP High companies are there?
there's
Double
not a
digits,
lot. There's
double
not a
digits.
lot.
They're
Yeah.
not more than 100, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're masochists. There's not a lot, and I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I don't want to derail questions or anything, but like
I know.
when we were building our platform through Paramify, we got like flags like right off the bat, like the tools that we really, really, really wanted to use for, we really wanted them. We could not because they didn't offer a self-hosted version and they weren't FedRAMP High, right? So there's very few things. I guess Splunk just achieved their FedRAMP High today, but Sentinel-1 is one that achieves FedRAMP High. And, it's quite a feat, right? Part of it is doing the work, and then the next thing is getting through authorization, which is another story, right? I wish we could affect all of it, but
Yeah, I mean,
can't.
I'll let you. You don't need to necessarily comment on this, but I'm pretty outspoken. I've spent a lot of time in the federal government myself as an actual employee, and like a lot of these standards, including FedRAMP, in my opinion, actually make it difficult to be secure in some ways. And if there's anyone who can like square that circle, it's you. So I'm happy that you're tackling that mission
Thank
of
you.
letting people be compliant and actually secure instead of just checking the box there.
Yeah, we hope so.
Something that would love to drill down on, and this is like I actually have no idea what the answer to this question is, and again, like I was an active duty Marine Corps officer. I worked on Capitol Hill as a staffer, and I do not understand CMMC really much at all. Can you talk about the interplay between CMMC and FedRAMP? Because you alluded to that a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, we work with partners that are way better at CMMC than us, but we do handle some of the documentation for CMMC if that's necessary. It's not the same lift that it is for a cloud service provider and FedRAMP, but it is still pretty significant, and the controls are pretty important. So we're talking about anywhere where there's controlled unclassified information. So some of these companies have been doing business with agencies within the federal government for a long time, right? So maybe they provide, the landing gear to, military vehicles. And these are just small companies, right? In wherever they are, just like, maybe doing $1 million, $3 million a year in revenue, right? Maybe smaller, maybe probably bigger. I mean, they need to have some sort of reason for existing, right? But sometimes these their servers, right, are like in closets, and they have classified data on them, and so those need to be protected, right? And so CMMC is really for contractors. There's about 300,000 of them that are doing business with the federal government. And so anytime that they are leveraging a cloud service, where Paramify really comes in is those cloud services are going to need FedRAMP equivalent that's what the rule is, right? And so that's a big opportunity for us, but also we'd want to partner with, those CMMC professionals that really understand the ins and outs of how to mark CUI and how to protect that. It's quite involved, and there's a lot of good people doing things to, make that a lot easier for clients. So we're looking to partner with those guys. I know a little bit, right? But we definitely we're not like auditors or 3PALs or anything like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And 3PALs, just for our audience, is
Third party audit organization. And then, so I think that there's a C3PAO, right? Where you're like a CMMC third party audit organization, or might be just, I don't know, but it's different than the 3PAO, which is the FedRAMP. You have to past a certain threshold, right? And it's significant, right? So definitely for these things, right, like CMMC or FedRAMP, you can't do it. You could do it alone. I think it will just be a lot harder. Same thing for you, like with AI, right? You could go for ISO 42. You could go through those things yourself. We just don't recommend it because you could avoid a lot of pain if you have an expert like you or somebody that's been there, that's gone through it, right? So there's just a lot to these things.
Absolutely. So on the note of AI, that's the theme of this podcast. Would love to hear a little bit about how your clients are adapting to the explosion of AI tool use, what the government is telling you or telling your customers about it, and like what sort of security measures are you seeing them implement or recommending them implement?
Sure, yeah. So I'll talk about the first part. I'll break it up into two. So first part is like what companies are, they're eating it up, and then on the security side, right, like or what the government's doing, right? So, man, I mean, companies are using AI everywhere they can, right? And I think it's because they're terrified of what will happen to their business if they don't, right? They have to have it. I don't really see a protective moat for businesses with AI alone, but the efficiencies gained by employees and their partners and their customers are just so insanely great. The value is just there. We all see it. In cybersecurity, most are integrating it into its products and services, like into their products and services, like to enhance security, automation, efficiency. They're using AI for predictive analytics, automating repetitive tasks where there's like a high level of definition, improving threat detection, personalizing the customer experience. That's a big one that I see with my clients. For us at Paramify, we're also 100% committed to AI in the most responsible way possible, wherever we can, right? Because our customers are really asking us for things where AI is really, really important. It doesn't do everything, but wherever we can use it, we want to, right? So there's just really high interest and demand from our customers. They want a few things from us. They want a better implementation experience. They want better analysis, and they also make it easier for ongoing use of Paramify, right? Because let's be honest, like no one really loves doing compliance documentation and all that stuff. And so wherever you can use a robot to do something that doesn't add value, they want that. So for us, it's mission critical. So that's that. And then I'll say just one more thing. Like, man, internally, sometimes I'm absolutely floored by some of the solutions we're able to use on the business development side. It's insane. I mean, we're going backwards is not an option. So that on the demand side, I mean, of course, right? Everybody wants to use it, and if they don't, as far as my strategy on keeping up with like AI compliance and even from the government, my strategy is follow Walter Haydock on LinkedIn. So I know a little bit about like Exec Order 14110, I think, and but let's think about like for my customers, like when they're using AI. So let's think about a couple things. Ultimately, in FedRAMP, we need to ensure that the security triad is taken care of, right? So integrity, availability, confidentiality of the data that's coming in. So all three of those in the triad get put at major risk with irresponsible use of AI, right? Of like full stop. And the most helpful exercise that I have found that we do at Paramify is just the identification of all the data, the people, locations, components that you have within your authorization boundary in that red box. And we try to make that as easy as possible. And so you need to ensure that the security triad is in place everywhere within the boundary and everything coming in and out. So I guess a few points like, okay, so sending, I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, so sending federal data somewhere to a cloud service that's not FedRAMP authorized is usually a no-go, right? Especially at FedRAMP High. And so your AI that you're using, it needs to be somewhere within your environment that's FedRAMP authorized at the appropriate level. So for us, FedRAMP High. And it's not really very straightforward. I'll talk about, you talk about this a lot, Walter, and I like your stuff on this. Confidentiality. This is actually really tough. Customers, of course, want to make sure that when they're using our AI, that we're not training the data on their specific, we're not training our model on their specific data. Otherwise, we risk leaking that data to other users of the platform. And so we put controls in place specifically for that. But the tricky thing, maybe we can dive on the tricky thing is we put controls in place, but with AI, you can't just set and forget a control. You have to monitor it because of all of the variables with AI. I mean, we're literally multi dimensions that we're handling with AI, right? And so that so far so good. No, we haven't had anything. It's just a matter of time though, before some challenge. That's just my bet. Hopefully not, but odds are that we're gonna struggle with that, right? So for us, we have AI implemented within our boundary. We have access, of course, to amazing hardware today, flexible solution and software that allows us, to have incredible opportunities for our customers, and we can ingest it pretty quickly and implement Paramify for our customers. But it's just a wild time to be alive. We have a lot to think about when it comes to risk, and I don't think we know. It's just there's just such appetite for it, and so we're probably paying attention less to what the government is saying about it or is not saying about it. We're just so pumped about the opportunity still. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, you alluded to going deeper, and I'd love to, if that's cool with you, to talk about
Sure.
are you running AI models in your own FedRAMP authorized infrastructure as a service? It sounds like that's what you're doing. Yeah,
That's right.
cool.
Yeah. So we put it in there and we had to make sure that it's copacetic and it works, right? So yeah, like we can't, for example, so if you come into Paramify and you run the features that says, hey, use have Paramify's AI, suggest something for this, like because so here's one of the use cases that we have, right? What people want to do is they don't want to lose all of the work that they've done for like many years manually maintaining an SSP, and so Paramify will ingest that SSP. And then we can do some things with like regexes to put things in the right place. But what AI can do is go like, hey, this is how Paramify looks for, efficiencies in the way that you lay out your security functions. And so AI is great for that if you train it enough, right? Which is what we've been doing. So we want that to be somewhere that's within the boundary, that we're running all of our scans on, and that we're running those specific AI controls on them, right? For maintaining confidentiality, things like that.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. And are there FedRAMP SaaS or PaaS options when it comes to AI? I think Microsoft Azure might have an offering. Is that right? For Gen AI?
Yeah. So Microsoft has one. Like AWS SageMaker, right, is in GovCloud. But it's not like you have to put in like you have to manage the model right within there, right? So, I think that's just going to get better and better. Again, because the demand is just so insanely high, right?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Taking kind of a broader look at things, we've seen the EU roll out the AI Act.
Mm-hmm.
They, in my opinion, are kind of viewing themselves as a regulatory superpower, and the United States, I think, is the economic superpower for now, at least. Let's try to keep that way. But do you see any sort of comprehensive federal legislation or regulation that is going to try to regulate AI broadly or narrowly, specifically for those supplying to the government? What are your views on that, and what do you think the best course is?
Yeah. Oh man, I think you're a great resource for this, but I would bet something comes out before we die. you know, um, I really do defer to you in this specific thing, but like unsafe, AI has already proven right a way to leak sensitive data in multiple cases. So I do believe that there's going to be bipartisan support for federal legislation. I think the problem, I guess, not that it's relevant, right, or not that it matters, but the problem I see is just the lack of expertise within the legislative bodies. And the nightmare scenario would be if it's too heavy-handed and it destroys, economic innovation, right, or innovation and economic growth, right, and doesn't even really address the risk, which is, just missing the mark. Where we have all sorts of hand wringing, right? So my hope is that they're careful about it. Already, of course, we have the directives, but who knows if we can get Congress to agree, which is kind of like the design of our of our system, right? So we want it to be really carefully thought out, but we're already, the pace of innovation is insane. So I bet there's something. I'll just say that there's probably going to be something, but I'm
Before we die.
yeah, before we die. Yeah. I hope, yeah. May that be long, many days hence,
Yeah.
many years
Yes.
hence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think you bring up a good point. There are two potential extremes that would both be bad. One is essentially the heavy-handed regulatory regime, which I'm quite concerned about. I think there's a potential for some really bad decisions to be made in terms of regulation, and that would essentially just push AI development outside the United States to more permissive regimes, or to regimes that are just like, maybe less concerned from a moral perspective. They don't have as many qualms, like China, for example. So I would definitely not want to see that, and that would below the kind of a Skynet type scenario, that would kind of be a nightmare scenario, as if like China becomes the AI superpower, because their government just has whatever you say about our government, they just have fewer restrictions, and they're just much more
Yeah,
aggressive, and have fewer qualms in what they'll do. So that's
totally.
that's one end. Another end of the spectrum is, I alluded to the EU. The EU has the European General Data Protection Regulation, which is comprehensive throughout the entire EU, although individual member states can make modifications to it. And how comprehensively and how consistently it's applied is really subject to interpretation. And something I tell my clients who are worried about GDPR, I say, "Are you a big American tech company?" And they're like, "No, I'm not." And then I say, "Okay, well, you probably don't need to worry as much about GDPR, because they're the ones who are really under the gun." And frankly, I think it was mainly just a form of taxation of American companies. They're fair, underlying principles, but it's such a vague regulation that it can be really used any way that the regulators see fit. But with that said, it is a comprehensive piece of regulation that does encompass a large geographic area, many political subdivisions. Now, in the United States, we have every state has its own data privacy or a breach notification law. And now we're already seeing AI specific laws popping up in Colorado. New York City, a city, has its own AI law. California has, I don't believe they've yet signed it into law, but their legislature passed SB 1047, which is actually quite a restrictive bill, and I think that's going way too far. But we have the potential to have this really fragmented approach, which, in my opinion, I don't think is the best way to do it. I think a light touch but a consolidated approach is the best way to go. And on the data privacy side,
100%.
yeah, on the data privacy side, like there have been bills that have had, bipartisan, both executive and legislative branch support for years, that just haven't been able to make it across the finish line. So hopefully before we die, that we will get something done on AI and even data privacy, which is, I think, is like a step before. Or maybe we could just wrap it all together, because frankly, they're very similar, very interlocking issues.
Yep. And then earmark a few things while you do it, right? For sure.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of the
Yeah,
that's part of the process. I mean, in a democracy, you gotta throw people bones here and there to get
um,
stuff done. It's just,
that's
you
right.
know,
That's
that's
right,
how the
man.
sausage is made.
That's
I
how the
was on.
sausage is made. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
All right.
America,
So
despite all the things we have to deal with, man. I can't. It's just great to be here. I love it.
yeah, amen. It's a great time and place to be alive.
Yep,
In
100%.
terms of switching gears a little bit to a more tactical perspective, like what are some risks that you're seeing? I could say, you can expand it beyond AI, but would love if you have any AI specific ones. What are some of the biggest risks that are not on people's radars but should be right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll keep it AI-ish, right? So my experience is people are really fixated on the outcomes of how incredible AI is, and I mean, just today, it's just amazing what we can do now. It's so crazy how productive things can be. More cheaply is better. So many productivity games. In my experience, um, I think you see people are worried about the risk of having obsolete skill sets because of AI, and man, I think we're getting there in some places. So you really have to be an AI wizard, right? Wherever your field is, and again, so businesses are frantically trying to say like, hey, how can we give AI to our customers and to our employees and to our partners so that they can, so that we can still exist, as a software company. But that brings a couple things to it, right? So the over reliance on AI. There's a little piece of that I think in the White House memo, right? So if we have over dependence on AI, it can lead to, the skill erosion among human workers who we really absolutely need, potentially reducing, critical thinking and problem solving abilities over time, right? So I know I use AI a lot, and I'm for sure getting dumber. Like, but I believe that AI augments the actions of Tony Stark, right? The fictional character, who I guess is becoming Doctor Doom. My son just told me that. Anyways, yeah. So we got psychological manipulation also, right? So, AI driven content with deepfakes can be like super persuasive, right? And targeted misinformation that's going to affect things for sure. It already is. And I just think back, I don't know if you've had a grandma that's like paid a lot of money to someone who so my grandma, bless her soul, she's passed on now, but she thought I was kidnapped and in a jungle somewhere in South America, and they used some pretty pedestrian tactics, but yeah, she opened up her wallet and paid them a lot of money, right? And I think that kind of scenario, there's going to be people who prey on, who haven't really adjusted to like, wow, that looks really real, right? So that's sad, man. That's a bad thing, and we're going to need to figure that out. I still think that the risk around AI training we talked about is not fully appreciated, and to me, that's the biggest risk for us, right? And so data is really important, and so that's that last one. I can't really do anything on the over reliance and the manipulation yet because we're not like Adobe or. I think that there's some really good opportunities for some companies to build some cool stuff to help. But for us, I think for CSPs, I do think that risk around, getting confidentiality of data is really underappreciated, especially for multi-tenant, SaaS providers.
Yeah. 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 So to maybe lighten things up a little bit, I'll respond to what you said with two jokes. So,
Okay.
so the first joke about, de-skilling or the importance of being adaptive is there was this video that went viral recently of this 8-year-old girl who was like doing a screen share of her building an AI chatbot. And I commented on that. I was like, well, if AI doesn't take our jobs, then 8-year-old girls will take our jobs because
Mm-hmm.
kids these days, I mean, like, you know, I think we're going to see a huge disparity. There are some kids like that who are like building chatbots right now, and they're going to take my job. I'm worried about that.
Hmm.
And then on the other end, there are people who are not going to be able to keep up. So I think that's a concern. I don't have an answer for it, and there are some like really sharp kids out there who are gunning for us. So can't
Yeah,
we got to
unbounded,
stand our
right?
ground.
They're unbounded by any like beliefs that we've created for ourselves
Right.
through school and through our experience, and absolutely, I mean, on the real, for sure.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
someone took
So
away like my like auditing job, that's okay. That'd be all right.
yeah. 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 Then the second joke about the deepfake things is like obviously you alluded to your grandmother getting defrauded, which is I'm very sorry to hear that. And then, you know obviously you and I, everybody just gets scams on a daily basis, and people of our generation, it's probably a little easier to like see through them because we're digital natives. But I joke 20 years from now I'm going to be in my kitchen, and then someone who looks like my daughter is going to walk in and be like, Dad, I need the credit card. I'm gonna be like, sure, sure, sweetie. And then walk out, and then my real daughter's going to walk in and be like, why did you just give that hologram your credit card, or your crypto wallet or whatever? I'd be like, but it's so
Oh,
real. Like,
the
obviously
face
now it's a
dancers,
scam.
the
Yeah.
face dancers from Dune Messiah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, dude.
I mean, it's going to be
Dude,
so obvious to that generation, and to us it's going to be like, just magic.
mm. Dude, if we get face dancers, we're screwed. They were the end of Paul Atreides, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
You gotta stay on your toes. And then I think from a societal perspective, like I do have strong views on the best way to approach this. And like I think some folks have been more on the watermarking side, that like we need to mark AI content as being as such. I think that's the wrong approach. I think the right approach is to mark authentic content, to digitally sign that in a way that
Yeah.
if you modify it, then you can say you can have a chain of trust from your Apple device, or that you took a picture with. That's going to be more effective. And then also just training people to be like, look, you shouldn't rely on just because someone puts some pixels in your face doesn't mean those are facts. Like, you got to engage your brain, and use critical thinking, and not just rely on someone, especially in my opinion, not the government, to be like, this is true, this is not true. You need to use your critical thinking and reasoning to arrive at what is true. So that's
And
just my opinion.
100%. I mean, I'm really hopeful that, there will be some in the private markets, right, that innovate here, right? I mean, it seems like Adobe could really kill it here, but it's a very hard problem. So it's not going to be like, oh yeah, simple. Like, it'll be really hard to do. But I'm excited about what we see from the media companies.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Definitely room for leadership here. And I think society, we're still around after what, 6,000 years of society. So hopefully we'll make it 6,000 more.
Yeah. Hey. Heck yeah.
So on that light note, just wanted to let you have the opportunity to plug anything,
Oh.
certainly your company, anything you want to plug at the end of the podcast. um, Please go for it.
Yeah, well, Walter, man, it's always good to catch up with you, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. I'm really excited for Deploy Securely. I think you guys you're gonna do awesome, right? So I'm excited for you. We're just so lucky to live right now. I feel so lucky. I've lucked out into a great experience with a great team of professionals at Paramify. I've had clients that I've been giving them embarrassing outcomes for a long time, and they've just trusted in me, and then in my partners, right? And, embarrassing products, not great to look at, but at least there's value, and I'm just so grateful for each of them. And they're just amazing to me, and I want to do really good work for others, right? I want to help um, make these problems that associated with the hours and hours of terrible work, right? That's just monotonous and really depressing. I want to solve that problem. And I just had so many great mentors and now companies that have trusted in us, and I'm just so grateful for them. It's been a great journey. It's a great time to be alive, right? So I guess that's all I'll say, right?
Awesome. Well, Paramify customers, that's your shout out. So really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts. Obviously, you and I have chatted one-on-one a couple times. I was on the Paramify podcast.
Heck yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I think that was the first one we did. I was like,
yeah, it's good.
someone was like, you just got to start. And so I remember, yeah,
do it.
Yeah, we just did it. And I appreciate you doing that. I think I've gotten a little better, but not much better. And so we'll keep going, keep getting better.
It's the reps, man.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you taking the time. And to our audience, thanks so much for coming and checking out the show. This is the Deploy Securely podcast, and we will see you next time.